I would say that Harvey and you yourself had a vision, and Karen had a vision, and you were definitely ahead of your time. But I think that the audiences have absolutely caught up with you. One of the unique things about this, the two unique things about the place. First of all, there are three actually. The building itself is without any doubt the most beautiful opera house in New York, in terms of the acoustics, in terms of the access that the audience has to what's going on the stage. The further seats back, you can't get that far away from the stage. It's simply not built that way. It's built more like almost like a European stage in a way. And yet, do you have 2,000 seats there?
That's right.
Yeah, but a European house would have had maybe 1,400 seats. American house would have 2,000 to 3,000.
Right.
But the proximity, that means that you're never very far from the stage. The acoustics are beautiful to play, and we love to play here, as you know. And having an opera, it has none of the problems of other opera houses, of size and the expense that, of course, comes with it, and all that kind of stuff. The one thing. The second, I think, is the vision that Harvey and you and Karen bring to it, which was another idea, which was that contemporary work could generate an audience, if not mainstream, but that would eventually be able to fill the house, and that turned out to be true.
Right.
Now, you can call it what you want to, mainstream, offbeat, whatever, underground, overground, it doesn't matter. The fact is that if I come here, or Bill Forsyth comes here, or Bob Wilson comes here, or Meredith Monk comes here, or any of these people, that the chances are we're going to sell out the house.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a vision. The third thing is that there's an audience that has, I would say, selected themselves. They come from all over and from out of town. It's not an up-town audience or a downtown audience, it's just an audience. An audience who's interested in new work, and work that speaks in a language of that we live in, that we're living in our lives. So, did I answer the question?
Yes, of course you are answering the question, and it is quite extraordinary, actually. Because you have a long history.
Yeah.
We're talking about this opera, Satyagraha, which I think had 4 or 5 performances in the opera house. And I was a ticket buyer.
Oh, was that true? That was, I guess that would have been before you were.
Yeah,
it was no next wave yet.
Yeah, it wasn't until 1983 that you and I worked together. That's when you and I started working together, in 1983 with the photographer, which, again, having the scale of the opera house dedicated to the photographer, which you should give us an insight as to the unique structure.
Well, the Spadaro was meant to be a concert, a dance, and projections of the work of Muybridge. It's dedicated to Muybridge. It was an invention of Rob Malash, a Dutch artist, and he was invited by Queen Beatrix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is what you meant. It was commissioned by Queen Beatrix, and the first performance took place at the Palace in Amsterdam. And after that, it went to the Carré, I think, and then Joanne got a hold of it, Joanne Acolytis.
Right.
And she made something else out of it, but basically it was the same idea.
Right.
There was a play, which would be The Life of Muybridge. Then there was a dance, and I wrote a kind of a little mini violin concerto for the dance, and then there were the images.
Yes, exactly. So again, having.
And by the way, so I remember David Gordon, who's another long-time associate of yours, did the choreography for that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, Sancho Lacosto did the sets and costumes, and Jennifer Tippett did
it
the
was
lighting.
I mean, basically, the creme de la creme have always been at BAM. Maybe they don't get the creme de la creme fees here.
That's true. That's absolutely a fact.
But they come anyway.
And they get their work
They come in
done.
to do the work. And one of the things I remember, Joe, that is particularly I'm fond of, is that I saw Merce Cunningham. I saw his work revealed. I mean, from the '80s and until he died, and I even saw him in his last performances here.
Mm-hmm.
So that you could, and Bill Forsyth is another dancer who,
Correct.
or Pina Bausch, another, and yes, 3 important dancers.
Yeah.
That if you were here, you could follow 20, 30 years of work.
Yeah, that's true.
And they brought their newest work here, and I think it was a place they'd like to come.
Mm-hmm. And we've benefited from the commitment that these.
Well, no, it's the other way around, Joe. We benefited from the commitment that you made. I mean, that's really true. I mean, Bob Wilson and I, we have done,
Well, let's migrate over to Einstein on the Beach, 1984. Following 1983, The Photographer, we worked a full year in 1984 reconstructing Einstein. The most important thing is that we had the music.
Yeah.
The film glass
we had something to
ensemble.
start, and you had the images of Bob. We had a wonderful premiere at the Met, and it was a kind of a fluke, but it was a great thing to happen in '76. But when it came to BAM, the fact that it might go on and become a piece of living repertoire, that's what happened here. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a one-time. It was great to do it. It was great to do it at the Met, but the Met was not going to put it in the repertoire.
Yeah.
and though you don't have a repertory company here, if you did have a repertory company, Einstein would be part of the repertoire.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It's true. And again, with the reconstructing, there was the commissioning of Lucinda Childs to do choreography, which was a new element, and then and the fact that you had an extended run. 10 to 12 performances.
And those are important things. For example, even Kepler here, we had 3 performances. It gave the performers time to settle into the piece and gave it time for audiences. I suppose some people came back and saw it again. Mm-hmm. That is a work which we're up to 12 performances in Linz, which is a small city and a tiny little opera house. But that's not so unusual in Europe, but in America doesn't happen, really.
Correct.
It can happen with, of course, the great Puccini and Verdi operas and even the Janacek operas, but modern, I'd say 21st century works, it wouldn't happen in those houses.
Right, exactly. And reflect a little bit on your relationship with Robert Wilson in terms of Einstein on the Beach.
Well, with Bob and I began, of course, we did. I knew his work, and he began to know my work. We began to meet in 1974. We met. I think after that performance, we all went to the loft on Spring Street with Bert Huppin Foundation. That was the name of his company, and we had a little kind of breakfast party, and we met at that time. And then Bob we knew who each other were. We were very curious to talk, and we agreed that we would have lunch together I believe it was a Thursday. We picked a restaurant on Sullivan Street, a little place on the 2nd floor. And on the days we were both in town, which did not mean every week by any means, but it could be at least once or twice a month, we met and had lunch there. I met Christopher Knowles there. Mm-hmm. We began talking very generally about theater. I would say after 6 or 8 months, we were talking about a piece. We let it unfold very, let's say, without hurry, without haste. Mm-hmm. We had nowhere to go with it at the time. We didn't know what would happen to it. It turned out that another visionary, I say another because in a way, what happened here, Michel Guy, he was at Avignon at the time, eventually became the Minister of Culture in France. Mm-hmm. Something that people may not know about Einstein was that Michel Guy commissioned it when he was at the Minister, he was still in Avignon, but he arranged for it to be a commission for the French government in honor of the 1976, the 200th anniversary of the founding of the 1776. So, and it was I would say the second gift that the French gave to America. The first being the Statue of Liberty, if I may put it that way. But I don't know. I don't know also.
But this is a fact.
No, here's the thing.
It's not a known fact. That's important.
I wanted to say that, and so it was commissioned by the French government. Now, at the time in the 1970s, when Bob and I were having our lunches and dreaming about this piece, there was a committee set up in probably the National Endowment to commission new works in honor of 1776. Of course, they missed quite a few people. Bob and I were we were among the many wonderful artists who never got the phone call. But once we got the commission, we thought we better tell them what had happened. So we wrote to them. I think someone at Bob's office wrote them and informed them that this piece, Einstein on the Beach, which at the time hadn't even arrived yet to America, that this piece was traveling around Europe, and it was a commission with the French government in honor of the American of the Revolution, so, and the founding of our country and all that. And they sent us a flag.
Really?
Yes. I don't know where that flag
Where it is.
I suppose it's at the Bird
Archive at the moment.
Yeah, doesn't matter. But it was one of those brilliant moments where, I mean, wouldn't it have been great? Wouldn't it have been an honor for us to have commissioned it? Us, we Americans, have commissioned it from ourselves.
Yes.
But we didn't.
No, that's true. Fascinating. I never knew. And you're right. I never knew that this was the.
It's a little not very known fact, but anyway, there it is. Jane Herman and a guy named Richard Wexler, the lighting designer.
Mm-hmm.
Jane is still alive. They were in charge of special events at the Met, and they brought it in as a special event.
And that was the 2 performances at the Met.
That we did, yeah. It was supposed to be 1, and they added a second, and they asked us if we would do a third. And Bob at that point realized that it was presented by the Met and Bert Huffman, but the way the contract read is that we had to take care of union expenses. It wasn't a rental. You don't four-wall the Met.
Mm-hmm.
But they worked it out, and Bob and I had no idea that operas lost money. Among the many things we did not know about operas was that operas don't make money. They can't make money. I don't think you even made money with Kepler. I mean, it's not impossible.
Right.
But at that point, we realized we were losing $10,000 a night every time we did. And after we had lost $20,000, Bob and we
bankrupt.
We were done.
Funny. So let's move over to another collaborator, which is the most recent one, is Dennis Russell Davies. And the relationship that Dennis has with you is a very significant.
Well, it's significant. He is certainly, there's some good conductors around. Marin Alsep is another one who is doing work now, and other people. Dante Anzolini, there are some very good conductors who are taking up the work. Dennis and I go back a good 30 years now. He was involved with the first performance of Satyagraha in Germany. And through that, we met through Molly Davis, a visual artist that works in video, who was married to Dennis. And they were living in, he was at we met when he was still at St. Paul Chambers Orchestra. And they were there, and I met him there. And he was about to go to Stuttgart to become the conductor of the opera there. And then when he got there, I sent him the Satyagraha, and he wanted to do it there.
Sure.
That was the beginning of that. And then he commissioned Agnatin. He was involved with that, with David Galkin in Houston. And then after that, Satyagraha, Agnatin, he wasn't involved with Einstein, so it was just those two.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he began commissioning symphonies. I think we did we do the second symphony here?
Mm-hmm.
I think we did one here. And I said, and then he did another symphony, the third symphony for someplace in Germany. Then he did 4 symphonies. That was for Twyla Tharp. It was a dance piece. Then he did the physics. And one point I said, Dennis, what's going on? He said, I'm not going to let you be one of those opera composers who's never written a symphony. And I said, well, he's completely succeeded. I had written some other symphonic works, but he wanted symphonies with numbers, like number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. We're up to 8, and now we're getting up to number 9. We're getting. And besides that, I say virtually every major opera was conducted by him. Not every opera, because some of the smaller ones, some were done at Bob Brustein did a couple at the American Repertory Theater in Boston. He did the Juniper Tree in Orfeo, and I worked with Joanne Akalatos on the Penal Colony. There were some other smaller operas. I did some other things with David Henry Hwang, and we did one at the Met. But the big opera houses, the big opera pieces were done with Dennis. So at this point now, since it's been actually living in Germany for virtually 20 years, Germany or Austria.
Austria.
But it's a German-speaking country, German language country. So now that I've been doing, I did Kepler, the significant thing for me about Kepler, what was the first opera I did in German. Without Dennis, I couldn't have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, though I had high school German, that's not enough to set an opera. I mean, it's enough to muddle through a few things. But he was a real partner in helping fit the German to the music, which he took every word in the libretto and deconstructed it in terms of the rhythm of the word, and based on that I could do the piece. And even after that, it was only about 90% correct, and it seems to be correct now. The German, when we play it in Austria, is considered. No one even thinks that it's anything about the fact. In fact, that it's done in German, but in fact, German is quite different from our language and the construction and so forth. Besides that, he's become expert in matters of orchestration, which he is anyway. But I have my own orchestral sound, so he has learned what that is, and he can make suggestions within my own orchestral palette. Mm-hmm. These aren't things that come out of a textbook. Right. These are the things that come out of experience. The experience of playing, 8 symphonies and probably 12 or 15 operas and all this kind of stuff, and other things that he's done as well. He was at the Vienna Radio Orchestra also for a number of years, and we did some things there. But he learned he learned what my orchestral style was, and on the basis of that, we could help with things. And for example, we were working in Germany and Erfurt to do Waiting for the Barbarians, and I came to a place where I really needed a counterbass clarinet, and we pondered this. It's a very difficult instrument to find. Even we finally found one in Leipzig, and the owner of the instrument was also the player. And when he rented you the instrument, he rented himself. He had to come and play it. So right. That was the deal. There are not that many of them around. I think they probably should have bought their own because they did a number of performances there. Mm-hmm. But we tried. We pondered the problem of it. We thought of a contrabassoon. It didn't work. And Dennis, Dennis said, "Look, you asked for a contrabass clarinet, and actually that's what you need." And but having put that in the orchestra, then there were ways of the doubling it and the way it appeared that he was very helpful with. There are details of orchestration like that, which contrabass clarinet, you might spend your life learning music and never encounter it or need it. In that piece, I needed it, and he understood that I needed it, and he helped to find it, and then he helped to implement it into the score. So he has been extremely helpful in that way.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Well, the Brooklyn Academy of Music would like to give you a gift.
Thank you, Joe. Oh, think, therefore I ban. Thank you.
And if you open it up, you will see that it says, I think.
I think. Oh. Let me say it again. I think, therefore I ban. Beautiful.
Philip Glass, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. It was nice to talk with you.